Hello, it's Nina with Stitching with a Smile, and I welcome you back to another segment in our Hardanger Stitch-Along. Today we are going to be doing the buttonhole stitches. I am recording this a second time. I didn't like my explanation the first time, so you'll notice on this piece I have done some work on the buttonhole. However, there's a lot of blank space and we can redo this recording. What I would like you to do for starters is to put in another set of guidelines. And these are just a small guidelines. And what you should do is on this very last left-hand kloster block, following that last thread in that kloster block, do your guidelines. You just need a few, you don't need lots. And however you want to secure it, if you want to leave a long tail, that's fine. Do it on all four corners. There it is on this corner as well. And here as well. The reason for this, if you look at this part that has been stitched of the blanket stitches, you don't want to count all of that. Even if you started from the middle and counted from the middle out, that's a lot of counting. So what we're going to do is we're just going to count from this line. Once you get up here and you stitch across and you hit that line, you just start counting there, and all you need to do is count 8, and I'll show that to you. But that makes your counting life a lot easier. As for the diagonal, that's easily counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you'll be doing 8 of these along the diagonal. So that's no problem to count that. But this will make your life a lot easier to count. So when we get to our pattern, this is the part we're going to be doing, the blanket stitches. I'm going to turn it this way. And we're going to base the counting from this kloster block. So if you look at your pattern, it's this kloster block that we're basing our counting from. From the top of this kloster block to the bottom of this blanket stitch is 12 threads, but we're actually going to be pulling up on the top here, so we'll have to count 16 threads altogether. And if you've got your guideline in here, when you come up around, you only need to count these few before you start doing those. So here we have it again in a larger format. This is the kloster block we're basing our counting from. Our guideline will be following that last stitch all the way up through there. And it's 12 threads from the top of this kloster block to the bottom of that, and 16 to here where we're going to be bringing our thread up. Okay, down to the nitty-gritty. So from this kloster block, and I don't know if it's showing up on camera, I did put a very faint line in here. This is going to be our guideline. You're going to count 16 stitches. 16 threads. So 1, 2, 3. Each line is a thread. 4, 5, etc. up to 16. And you'll bring your thread up here. Now, to stitch if you're right-handed, turn your pattern and fabric this way. Your needle will come up here. You will not go down there. It's going to seem odd at first, but it will make sense. You're going to come up. You're actually going to go down here. then come up here and down there and up. And I've numbered them. I don't have the steadiest hand, but so you'll come up at 1, down at 2, up at 3, down at 4, up at 5, down at 6, up at 7, and you'll hook your thread, and I'll show that to you as you go. When we get to the corner, I'll describe the corner to you, but let's start with this. So you follow the last leg of your kloster block, count 16 threads, and bring your needle up, and then at the next, you do not go down here, you go down for the next one. This is your guideline. You will be completing that stitch at the end when you come back around this way, but you'll start counting from here, just past your guideline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll do 8 straight stitches before we start the corner. Okay, to start your thread, once again, I don't know if I'm in frame. Here we go. I've got a waist knot out of the way. I've counted 16 threads from this kloster block, and here's my guideline, and I'm coming up on that guideline, but I'm going to start stitching next over. So let me bring this down and put the stitch in so you can see. Okay, so we came up here, we go down here and come back up next to that stitch, or one down from that stitch. Take your thread, wrap it, and there we go, your first stitch is done. Now, this stitch will be completed at the end, and I will show you that. So we'll do 8 stitches. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this is number 8. And that is where we are going to start the first corner. So I've just done this stitch. I went in here and up. Now this corner, these are 5 stitches that all share the same hole. So you've gone down here and come up here and caught that thread. The next thing you do is go down here and come up here, which is 2 fabric threads away from this one. So you come up here, you go down, and you come up here, which is 1 down and 1 over, or 1 diagonal from this last one. Back down in here, come up here, same thing, 1 down, 1 over, or 1 diagonal from that one, and that's your 3 middle stitches. Go back down in the same hole and come up here. And catch your thread, of course, again. And that's one of your corners. The other corner is simple, but this corner is this one. So I did put numbers, and if we count this as number 1 coming up, you go down at 2, come up at 3, down at 4, because that's the same hole, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then you go 12 and 13, down at 14, up at 15, down at 16, up at 17, down at 18, up at 19, down at 20, and up at 21. This shares a hole here at this corner, so be sure to do that. Let's do it together. I'm really hoping that makes sense. So I've done the first stitch of this corner, which is the 8th stitch in from our guideline, and I'll share the hole, and I'll come up two threads away from where I came up before, and that's the start of those 3 center ones. Go back in your hole, then 1 diagonal, which is 1 down, 1 over from there. Same hole again. 1 more diagonal, because there's 3 stitches in the middle and then 1 on either end. Then I turn the work to finish that corner, back down the same hole, and now you are 2 threads away from here, just as the same as you were 2 threads away from there. Don't forget to hook your thread from before. And now you're on a straight. So next hole down and come up. I have to untwist my thread, just a moment. Okay, so we are going to do 5 stitches, 5 buttonholes. That's 1 that was from the corner. This is the 2nd. Now I'm doing the 3rd. Then the 4th. And the 5th. And this second corner is very simple. It's just a 90 degree. So turn your work. You're going to go down 4 threads and then come up the same hole where this one came up. And that's your corner. That's the second corner. So there's only 2 corners. And again, straight for 5 buttonhole stitches. And once you've done the 5, you're back to this point and you do exactly the same thing again. I really hope I've been in camera. So I'll come back and I'll show you how to start and stop a thread, or stop and start a thread, in just a moment. Okay, so I've gotten to the next area where I'll be switching out my threads. I've parked this one out of the way. The new thread is put underneath the stitched threads at the back of the work, and you come up, see if I can do this. This is where that old thread came up, so I come up very next one over. Now I do not go down here. Let me just see if I've got this right. I go down the next one over and come up next to it. So we end up leaving the space in here with that. This is our new thread, and there's a space there, and we start stitching at the next one. Make sure to wrap your thread around your needle and continue on stitching. Now at the spot this is where we started the previous thread. We had come up we had come up here and gone down and then come up there. So we left this space. We left the hook of thread here from the new thread, and here's our old thread. So what we do, again, I'll have to do this down here. Let me just, okay. Is we hook the old thread into the new thread, that very first section where we had left it blank, we hook it underneath, and sink your needle to the back at the hole that was left empty. And there is like a seamless join. You can barely tell. And it is put together so that it will hold your thread once you cut. And then you just take your old thread and weave it in and out in the back of your work. I wanted to point out when we get to our guideline, just ignore this, I had to change threads, that we start counting not the stitch that lands on the guideline, but the stitch after the guideline. And that's where you count your 8. So let's do that together. Okay, so this stitch that I'm doing right now, I don't know if I'm in camera, is right on the guideline. So I won't count that one. I will start my count after that one. That's 1, 2, 3, 7, and this will be number 8, which is the start of the curve. So I did not count the one on the guideline, but started the count after the guideline and counted 8, and that starts the first of the curve. So there's our guideline, counted 8, and this is the 8th one, is the first one of our curve. Okay, I'll keep stitching and I'll meet you back in another minute. Okay, we're back now at the very end of our work. We've done all our blanket stitches all the way around, and we're coming up to our last stitch, hooking up to our first stitch. Now, as before, just as we had done when we switched out threads, we're going to pick up that little portion. Now this is coming out, it's loose because it's part of the waist knot. I've got my waist knot up here, so this portion is going to be loose. It's not secured in anywhere yet, which is fine. You can hook your needle underneath that, and I'm just going to tug on my waist knot to bring it back down. Get my waist knot here, tug on it. Okay. And I'm going to sink my needle. There's that blank spot right here. I'm going to sink the needle right into that blank hole. It has our guideline in it, but ignore that. Put it right in there. Now, as I said, that's a bit loose, but that's okay. I'm tightening it with the... Okay. So now we have hooked up our last stitch to our first stitch. We hooked underneath and went down, so now it's one continuous blanket stitch. That thread that you just sunk, secure it behind your work, cut your waist knot, and secure that behind your work, and you're done with all your kloster blocks. Thanks so much once again for watching and following along. The next time, let me just, see, I can't get it in the frame anymore, it's too big. The next time we come back, we are going to do the eyelet stitches, and after that we'll do the cable stitches. The eyelet stitches won't take long and they're fairly simple. The cable stitches are, they'll take a bit longer, but they're a lot of fun. See you next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.